Alrighty, so hello everybody. So today I'm going to be presenting on the blockchain game Castle of Blackwater. So to get us started with an overview, it is a play and earn social deduction game. So that would be similar to a game like Among Us, for example, when players try to accomplish tasks and there's people who try to get away, or rather get in the way of this process. And in addition to the actual gameplay itself, there's three factions and a town surrounding the castle. The castle is kind of where the actual gameplay takes place. And the reason there's this town around this castle is it allows people to discuss strategies in certain locations, come together. There's also the ability to have land ownership, which allows people to display cosmetics. And there's also a builder's tool which they plan on releasing. And the builder's tool is essentially the ability to allow players to build mini games within the game. And that would kind of just be like an in-between the matches that are played. So the game offers both free-to-play and pay-to-play gameplay via NFT purchase. And I wanted to just copy a piece of the white paper and put it at the bottom here. And it reads, inspired by hugely successful play-to-earn games with a clear long-term vision and strong game economics like Splinterlands, Gods Unchained, and Sandbox, the economy and player model behind the Castle Blackwater will be circular, inclusive, sustainable, and scalable. So the reason I kind of just wanted to point this out and paste it from the white paper is because when I was reading this white paper, which is very extensive, it really speaks to some of the issues within like the play and earn space. It's very clear that the team has done their research in terms of the issues of sustainability and actually plan on creating solutions to that and are explicit in terms of how they plan on doing that. So it was a nice sign to see as someone who was reading the white paper and was wanting to know more about the game. So if we continue on to the next slide, we have the high level token summary, which is the governance token, which is COBE, as well as the in-game token COBS. So the governance token provides some utilities such as voting. It's earned by winning games and it's used to buy land and NFTs within the game. And there is a staking feature that is available. COBS, the in-game token, is earned by playing and completing quests, and it's spent on the bidding room, and I'll discuss the bidding room a little bit later, as well as cosmetics within the game. So to go into market design, one of the nice things that I thought was included in this white paper was actually kind of like a persona display itself. So on the top right, this PowerPoint slide, you'll kind of see some information regarding different player types of Web 2 and Web 3 gamers and how that kind of might affect the economy. So it was kind of nice to have like a nice display of that represented within the white paper itself. So to kind of just discuss a couple of the personas, we know that the majority of players here are going to be killers because it's a competitive game where players are attempting to kind of defeat the other faction. And we also know that miners are going to be pretty relevant within this ecosystem because players are able to earn a small amount of token by playing for free. So botting might be a pretty big deal here that needs to be kind of dealt with, and it's going to be a little bit of an arms race from the developers and from the people who are botting to kind of extract from the economy. We know that investors will also be present because both the tokens and the NFTs are going to be available on exchanges, and socializers are also going to exist within the ecosystem. Due to the fact that it's a social game, you don't have to play competitively, you can play with friends. And more importantly, there's that kind of like added benefit of having that room to discuss in the town strategies within the game. So I also included some statistics from the game Among Us. Now I'm not gonna make the argument that this game is gonna succeed to the same degree, but I would argue that given the tremendous success of a game like Among Us and the fact that there are no social deduction games present within the Web3 space, I wouldn't be surprised if this game did reasonably well compared to some of the other like Web3 gaming counterparts, especially these like idle games that are replications of Axie Infinity, for example. So because of this kind of unique quality, I might foresee it as a game that succeeds in this field. So let's continue to the next slide, which is mechanism design. So we have two things here. On the left side is kind of just a brief overview of the types of players that make up the actual gameplay. So that would be 15 players in total and different factions of each type of player. Some more information is listed there. And on the right side here, we kind of have a display of how rewards are circulated as a result of playing the game. So we have here both win rewards as well as player rewards. So as I mentioned earlier, play rewards is the in-game token, win rewards is the governance token. It kind of just displays here how the rewards are circulated within the game. I'm going to move on because there's a lot of information that needs to be covered, but I'll touch on this a little bit later as well. So I'm going to introduce a couple of the mechanics. So I was talking about the bidding room a little bit earlier. I kind of alluded to it. Essentially what the bidding room is the ability to bet on which type of character you want to play. So there's three different factions. Those are type of characters you can bet on. And essentially how it works is if you want to be able to bid on a character, you need to own that NFT. of that character. And you don't necessarily get that guarantee simply by owning it. It just allows you to bet on it. And by bidding on it, it acts as kind of like a value sink within the game. And so it's an interesting mechanic that they implemented. And the reason they kind of did this was to facilitate a little bit more competition within the game. And I think it's kind of something that was interesting to include. And the other thing which they included was a percentage-based payout system. So we kind of know within in-games that it started off with this kind of like hyperinflationary in-game token. The more players that came in, the more rewards that went out. And then we're kind of seeing in recent games where there's a finite number of tokens that are allocated in a given week to kind of reduce that inflation process. So this is a little bit more of an innovation to that, which is a percentage-based payout system. And essentially how that works is relative to the amount held within the treasury, that's how much is given as play and earn rewards. So it doesn't necessarily solve the problem of sustainability, but it allows more flexibility in terms of how much or how little rewards are given in a given week. So to continue on to a different mechanic, which is the energy ranking system. So essentially, the reason I wanted to display this is because in an issue, when you provide people with the ability to earn the in-game token for free, right, it unlocks the ability to bot. So this is kind of like the mechanism they have in place to reduce this. Essentially, how it works is you need to both win games consistently and be good at the games in order to earn. And essentially, if you want to earn for free and you don't want to buy an NFT, you need to be voted as like the most valuable player within the game. And that allows you to like eventually earn some tokens, which you can then, take out of the economy or, save up and use to buy an NFT. So let's continue on to the next slide. And also the daily energy works such that the better you are, the more games you can play. They're kind of rewarding skilled gameplay in that sense, through like the ability to earn more tokens. All right, so revenue. So again, how is money circulating within this economy? So the treasury is kind of responsible for fueling the play and earn rewards, and the reserve is used for operation costs as well as like funding community, so that sponsorships, like events and rewards and whatnot. So how the money goes to the treasury includes cosmetic purchases, the bidding room, which I was talking about just now, NFT rentals. And that's kind of the main drivers in terms of what funds the treasury. And when it comes to the reserve, it's predominantly also NFT resales. So essentially how it works is if there's about I believe an 8% tax that occurs for marketplace fees, and half of that goes towards the treasury, and the other half goes towards the reserve. And that's kind of how money flows within the ecosystem. So what are some of the systematic risks? And I also should point out that token design is not available yet because the game is still very early on in its roadmap. So that's something that will be updated, I assume, in the next 6 months. So what are some systematic risks? Are the market conditions. So often when we have cryptocurrencies associated with an exchange, whether it's centralized or decentralized, there are issues regarding investors coming in and having effects on prices and whatnot. It's a difficult, challenge that we try to accomplish here is to create some sustainable models when there are these outside forces at play. Now, to get into a little bit more detail in terms of the idiosyncratic risks. So part of the white paper, they go out of their way to kind of discuss some of their economic solutions to this like play and earn problem. So the first one is these multiple revenue streams, play for fun mechanics, percentage-based payouts, and the self-balancing treasury. So the percentage-based payouts I kind of spoke about already. Pay for fun is essentially like the bidding room and also just having a fun game. And the multiple revenue streams are how like money is circulated towards the treasury. So I wanted to point out a couple issues that I believe with these solutions. And they're not risks in the sense that they're a risk to the economy, but they're a risk in the sense that if you are creating solutions to the problem that are not adequate solutions, those are going to be the risks to your economy. So let's start off with the self-balancing treasury. So essentially the argument they make within the white paper is that if you have tokens that are going to be sold off because players who are looking to earn are not earning enough, causing the price to go down, people who are playing for fun are going to buy the tokens at a lower price and kind of take advantage of that sell-off. So this is an assumption that I think is not necessarily a good one to make. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that players who are looking to play for fun are going to act in that sense. So I wouldn't necessarily include that as a solution to this problem without, a sufficient evidence to support that claim. Now, the percentage-based payouts is a nice and it's an innovative mechanic, but by no means does it actually solve the problem of sustainability, right? Because if there's no money going towards the treasury, then it doesn't matter whether it's a percentage of the treasury that's paid to the players. because it's going to be, if there's $10 in the treasury, a percentage of $10 is next to nothing. So it doesn't necessarily create any form of sustainability. It still has the same issues, especially if you're trying to actually reward players suitably for playing. And these play for fun mechanics, in my opinion, this is the actually only solution out there, because ideally you have more money going into the ecosystem than out of the ecosystem. And ultimately, if players are extracting more than they're putting in on average, the game is not sustainable. So ultimately, what needs to happen here is that players are willing and wanting to spend more money than they're taking out of the game, or that on average across all types of players, that's what happens. More money is staying in than it's going out. And the only way to really accomplish that is by creating a fun game. And the multiple revenue streams are essentially a manifestation of the for fun mechanics, right? It's how they actually take place within the ecosystem. So that's the majority of what my thoughts are regarding the idiosyncratic risks. I talked about botting already. An issue I also think is an insufficient number of syncs. I didn't see a lot of emphasis on cosmetics explained within the white paper. I would have liked to see more emphasis on that. And there's also no really requirements to sync any of the tokens you earn. What I would like to see is some, for example, NFTs that are automatically set to depreciate so that players are forced to reinvest in their NFTs, for example. That might not necessarily be suitable in this case, but a mechanic similar to that, for example, is something that we should see that probably should be implemented for its sustainability.
I noticed that on the page that had the different kind of ranks or levels that you can achieve, that there was a bottom level, and then like one above that, the visitor has a positive daily energy, and if they have and like no ability to be demoted. And so does this level, do they have token earning capability just from this?
From stranger, from visitor?
From visitor, because they have that daily energy.
Yeah, so you need to win 10 games as a stranger, then you rank up to visitor, and then at visitor you can play 1 energy a day to earn.
Yeah, and so that kind of seems like where the bots would land, because they have the ability to earn something. They can't be demoted, and so there's not really much of a downside, but there's a positive upside earning opportunity that could allow them to en masse extract value from the economy.
Agreed. Yeah. And, I should clarify, this is, I believe, for actually the NFT holders. So I don't think it would be this sense where the botting happens. The botting would happen where you can play and then you get voted on as being the most helpful player. And that's how you can kind of extract from the economy. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's how it works.
Just to complete to that, I think one of the things that Axie Infinity did was exactly what Kiefer is mentioning. They had you could earn in any ranking that you're in, but then they took off the play versus the PvE. They took off the rewards so that people couldn't bot, and then later on they put the limit of 800 rank, 800 points or something, so that if you're below that you wouldn't earn any points. So all of these scholarships that had very bad teams or bots couldn't earn anymore, and they tried to control, but that solely didn't fix it. But I just wanted to
it'll probably be the same. Everyone who did any form of botting within Axie Infinity, Peg Axie, whatever, these guys are going to go heavy into any game they can find and try to extract. So it's going to be an issue for sure.